As all of you know, September 2019 is supposed to be a unique moment in history. They are going to do a massive storm of people who are UFOologists, people who are fanatics about wanting to know what did the Air Force recover in Roswell back in 1947. And most people believe to this day, including nuclear physicists like Stanton Friedman, retired United States Air Force officers like Wendell Stevenson, they all have said categorically over the past 2 decades that the United States Air Force uses Area 51 as an actual base for recovered UFO spacecraft, but also for aliens. Aliens are supposed to be underground in bunkers that are underneath the base. And when I first heard about the fact that they were planning this massive storming of the base, I thought, well, that's a neat idea, you know, but I thought there's some things some people should be hearing about this story that they haven't been hearing. Number one, NBC News did a story roughly 5-6 years ago, and the claim at that time was that they had closed Area 51 down, that the United States Air Force had totally shut the base down. To this day,
the movies have been onto it for decades. Something weird in the Nevada desert.
Take my word for it, there's no Area 51.
That's not entirely accurate.
8,000 square miles, an hour-and-a-half drive north of Las Vegas. One so secret that people who worked there, like radar and missile expert Thornton Barnes, could not tell their own wives.
She had no idea where we were and, you know, thought it was in some other country.
You're about to be letting on the most highly classified data America holds.
The movies were right about one thing. It was a super-secret government testing site in a dry lake bed. Its exact location long suspected and now revealed on this newly declassified government map, where the CIA developed a Cold War spy plane called the U-2.
They obviously didn't want the Soviet Union to know about it, and to ensure that, they wanted a facility where it could be tested away from everybody else.
But the need for test flights soon caused a huge spike in reports of UFOs. The declassified CIA documents say as the sun set, commercial planes were flying in the dark, while the U-2s 40,000 feet higher would still reflect the sun's rays and appear to be fiery objects.
Well, it can't be aircraft. Aircraft can't maneuver like that.
What else could they be?
But in all these newly declassified files, there's nothing about aliens or their captured spacecraft.
They're here, aren't they? Mr. Mulder, they've been here for a long, long time.
Leaving UFO buffs to wonder what's next to be declassified. Pete Williams, NBC News, Washington.
And then there's the story of the...
to this day, they still are showing that there are cameo dudes out there patrolling the actual base. And these really are not U.S. Air Force military personnel. These are actual base security people who are placed there by private companies that finance and actually pay these individuals to do the surveillance, but they are not U.S. military personnel. The story that the NBC Nightly News did was to show basically only that the base was closed, but they were not allowed to do filming or photography inside any of the hangars. They were given no kind of tour of the base or the facilities. And here we're talking about a massive number, like 1 million plus people who are going to go out and they're going to storm the base in September. And I've been watching the internet the last week or so, and they're saying that the National Guard is going to be called out to patrol the area to make sure people do not try to go onto the base to try to overcome it or take over any of the base gate sites, you know, where there are obvious security agents there to stop people. There are also reports that law enforcement from the Nevada State Police to county sheriff's office are on heightened alert to the potential of seeing excessive numbers of people who will be out there on the extraterrestrial highway watching, waiting to do whatever it is that they're going to plan to do sometime in mid to late September. I wanted to bring out one or two other things that people probably already know as well. You've got, over the last 30 years, a change in the philosophies within our government about transparency. You hear that from the presidents, from Obama to George Bush to Clinton, saying the government is going to be transparent of what they disclose, about not trying to deliberately or indirectly withhold information. And I contend if the military had been transparent from the time of Roswell and giving out information complete and uncovered or in any way that they were going to restrict people from hearing about what was happening at the base at the time of the crash of these two UFOs, one in Corona, one in Roswell, we wouldn't have some 70 years later a continued cover-up by the United States military, especially the United States Air Force and the Army, about what did happen when these UFO crashes took place. What gives credibility to these 1 million plus people who are going to storm Area 51 is the fact you have very legitimate individuals who have retired from the Air Force. I mentioned Wendell Stevenson first. Also, you have a known nuclear physicist, Stanton Freeman, who has investigated UFOs since the 80s. And you have people like that who have very, very legit backgrounds in the scientific community saying the same things that ufologists have talked about. You had Robert Lazar, who said he was an actual scientist who was employed at the base at one time, and the United States Air Force has been basically trying to discredit him ever since he made those statements that he was there, he saw these aircraft, he said, that looked identical to what we've all seen as UFOs. The thing about why so much is still uncertain by people who are UFOologists, people who are just fanatics, is the fact that there has been no willful transparency within the military to tell people what's out there. And the only way they'll ever do that is to come forward and do a video of some kind that shows people what is there on that base. And as long as the military refuses to do that, they even to this day still deny that Area 51 exists. And it's not because they're trying to hide military secrets, like, you know, undeveloped special aircraft that they're out there developing or test flying. It's because there's so many other things they refuse to either deny or to acknowledge about what's happened in the past 70 years that leave all people wondering about what really does happen there. And there is an encounter that I can remember, I saw this in a video, it's called Dreamland. This is what they call Area 51. There was this fat British news reporter who went out there to where they do the flights from Las Vegas airport to Area 51. They have a private military operated civilian aircraft company that actually fly scientists and other who knows who to the base from the airport, so they don't have to be bussed out to the actual reservation, the military reservation. And he went out there to try to ask the security guys that were there at what happens, what is the purpose of this facility, why do you fly people out there? And you talk about non-professionalism. You have these two security guys who were first of all adamant, arrogant, that they were there to do a function which they weren't going to talk about. And then you had the other guy who was a security guard. I'm telling you, that guy, the way the fat guy was treated by this security guard, he should have been arrested, if not fired on the spot, because you don't treat people who are not employees of the government. You don't treat people who are just average citizens walking across the street like crap, and that's what they did. I'm going to show it to you right now. This is what these two security guards at the airport did to this guy who was a ufologist. He went there. He was going to ask questions about what goes on at that airport facility where they were flying people who were coming in on civilian airplanes, and then they were flying them out to Area 51. You won't believe how this guy treated them.
Who are you trying to hit, bud? Is there anyone you can point us to give us any details of? As we were ejected from the airport, yet another jet.
So now I've shown you that footage, and the only other thing I want to bring up about Area 51 would be, if you don't want people being out there on the base, then have total transparency of what you're doing. Don't keep it secret. If it's national security, move it somewhere else. Move it someplace where nobody knows about it. There are other facilities across the United States people still don't know about because they're all buried underground. There's a lot of bunkers like that. The military won't do that. I think it's because they're arrogant. They're adamant about thinking that what they do is their own business and that we as taxpayers have no business asking what's going on there. And I say that in itself is tantamount to people doing what's about to happen, where they're going to storm Area 51, because as taxpayers we're entitled to know what they're doing with our money. And it's like they think it's none of your business to know what's going on. It's none of your business to ask. We are the holders of your purse strings as far as your taxpayer dollars. We are the ones that control that. This is the military talking. And I tell you, that is just absolute unacceptable anywhere you go if you're talking about someone else's money. You want to know what it's for, what you're doing with it, not adamantly and arrogantly acting like it doesn't matter because it's none of our concern. It is our concern. I did a video a month or two ago about this guy. His name is Christian Grunau. This guy is claiming he's a miner. Comes from Las Vegas every other day out to the reservation there at the Groom Lake Road. He goes out there on military property, tries to play cat and mouse with the military liaison that's out there, the cameo dudes. And he thinks nothing he's doing is wrong. And you have people who pretend like, oh, he's not doing anything wrong, and they're encouraging him to do this. And I say those people who encourage Grunau or any of these other people like Area 51 Ryder or whoever, those people are accessories because they're encouraging these individuals to do these actions, and they ought to be arrested just as well as Grunau himself for what he's doing. Because he goes out there, he knows full well he's not supposed to be on that land. They've got sensors underground that detect everybody within 200 miles of the actual gates where Area 51 is. They know who's there, they know who's coming on the grounds. And you got Grunau himself arrogantly trying to say, I'm going to go on the base and you can't stop me, and you're not going to ever catch me because I'm going to find a way, one way or the other, of either deceiving you into thinking I'm somebody else. Because he drives around in a Ford F-150, and that's exactly what the cameo dudes use when they're out there patrolling Groom Lake Road. And these are the kinds of people that give Area 51 a bad rap because they think it's a joke. You don't see Grunau trying to say in his videos, I'm trying to search out and find evidence of these UFOs. He's out there trying to play games with the military people or the actual security force that's on the reservation, who are trying to protect whatever secrets that they don't want people to find out about. And again, in itself, if you want transparency, you don't hunt down people who are out there trying to find out things anyway. And that's what the security is there to do, to intimidate, harass, threaten. I got a video from a guy that posted, I think it was Adventures, not Adventures with Christian, I'm talking about another guy. He was on a motorcycle with another guy. They went out there, they got stopped by the cameo dudes. Cameo dudes was one of them, was a military fat blob of a guy with a bald head sitting there pointing a revolver at these guys' faces, saying, if you don't get off this property, we're gonna blow your head off. And he used all kinds of profanity and all the rest of it. And then at the end of the interview, or the encounter, they told him, okay, this is it, we're going to give you one chance to get off the property. In other words, they were they were trying to intimidate these guys to leave by any and all possible ways, threatening them with the deadly force issue, using guns, whatever. Again, all of this proves that the United States military does not want transparency in what they do at Area 51. If they did, they would not treat people who are citizens of this country like dirt and threaten them with being shot, killed, whatever, just because you're there. Yeah, I know that they are there illegally. This again proves that Grunau and the others shouldn't even be there. But again, the overlying factor is this, that the military should be trying everything possible to project the right attitude about what is Area 51, why are they doing the things they're doing out there, and they're not answering those questions. They're trying to pretend that it is none of our business, because as taxpayers, we have no intention or even wanting the option to find out these facts, because the military is saying it's none of your business. We decide those things because we are actually given the money by your taxes to decide whether or not we think you should know these things or not. And that's not transparency. So, for those who watch this and are planning this thing about storming Area 51, I'm not condoning it, and I'm not endorsing it, because in my mind it is illegal to go on the base, but at the same time you do have a right to find out what's happening there. And for the military not to take the attitude that transparency is the most key thing to any democracy, any kind of a free nation or a republic, for them to take this attitude that it's none of your business what goes on out there, and to intimidate people or lie, threaten, harass, profile, whatever, that in itself is worse than any kind of a denial or even a unwillingness to disclose through transparency of what's going on at that base. So I say to everybody watching the video, if you're going to go, I would say these things to the military. We pay your taxes, we pay our taxes, we pay your salary to do what you're doing. And as a taxpayer, that is a taxation without representation for us not to know what is happening on that base. And we have every right to know what's on that base. What goes on there, what are you hiding underground that we don't know about. Having full disclosure is the only way the military will ever be able to get people's interests off of this totally satisfied or fulfilled, is to tell them and show them in a video of what happens at Area 51. If it's closed, there should be no reason for them not to allow people in there, because the NBC news story already said that the base had been closed. So if it's closed, what's the point of us saying we're not entitled to go out there, because supposedly it's not open anymore, it's not there. So open it up, let the taxpayers see what's been going on, if there are aliens there, or if are there UFO spacecraft there, what is happening at Area 51. Let people find out for themselves what is going on out there at Nellis Test Range, because that's what that Air Force facility is called. It's called the Nellis Test Range. It's where they fly aircraft. It's where supposedly secret aircraft have been created over the past 30, 40 years. And yet to this day we still don't know everything, because the military refuses to be transparent about what they're saying and what they're talking about at Area 51. So thank you for this chance to express certain facts that maybe some of you've never thought about before, but maybe now, if they storm in there, the military might be willing to open up those doors and let people see what has been happening. 10 to 1, if there were ever alien spacecraft to Area 51, or bodies, or even aliens, they're long gone. Because NBC said 4 or 5 years ago the base was already closed. It's now shut down. That's what NBC News said. So maybe we can finally get disclosure and full accountability for what's been going on at Area 51. So thank you for watching this video, and I appreciate you viewing what I've shared with you. I hope that you'll come back to this channel again in the future, because I'm going to have a lot of other material to talk about on all kinds of different subjects.
His name is Omran Daknesh, just 5 years old, and his feet barely hung over the edge of a seat in an ambulance. Dazed, he didn't cry as he wiped away blood and the dust from a building that collapsed around him in an airstrike. His silence somehow reminded the world today of its silence in the face of the atrocities in Aleppo. Omran was pulled out alive Wednesday. 5 other children died when the building they were in was hit during the relentless Syrian-Russian offensive on rebel-held areas in Aleppo. The image of Omran's face spread like wildfire on the internet. One tweet called him the real representative of the Syrian people.
Stop killing Syrian innocent people, civilian. Our children need to live in peace.
The doctor who treated Omran said today there were many more severe cases no one is paying attention to.
We need to protect our hospital, our doctors, our medical workers from airstrike.
Omran is recovering. His family now wants to escape. The same choice another boy's family made a year ago, Aylan Kurdi, whose body washed up on a beach. He too was a symbol of Syria's youngest victims. Now there's a new one. Tomorrow there may be another. Richard Engel, NBC News.
They've reported from around the world, challenged the powerful, and they bring all of this to every story that breaks.
We've got breaking news, and it's good news.
And touches your heart.
How do you even say thank you? Thank you is not big enough.
I made this. first.